Hey guys, let's get more news about Miami Heat, but first, don't forget to subscribe to the channel and leave a like. The Miami Heat have entered the NBA tank race. The Miami Heat are in a tailspin. After dropping their 8th straight game in a blowout loss to the New York Knicks, the Heat have plummeted to the 9th worst record in the league. This isn't just a rough patch, it's a full-blown collapse. This isn't turning around in any meaningful way. They're getting blown out by 30 on the regular. The third quarter against New York was an absolute disaster, with the Knicks outscoring Miami 41-15. It's gotten so bad that even Tracy Morgan couldn't stomach watching courtside, literally puking on the floor. When celebrities are vomiting at the sight of your team, you know things aren't awesome. "We're going through the dark days right now," Jamie Jaquez Jr. said. After Miami's loss and the Chicago Bulls win over the Utah Jazz on Monday night, the Heat have dropped to 10th place in the East and are 10 games under .500 for the first time since the 2016-17 season. If the standings were frozen today, the Heat would have the 9th best odds in the NBA draft lottery. Despite the skid, Miami is still a near lock to make the play-in tournament. But a play-in elimination would result in maintaining their place in the lottery. Make the playoffs, and the Heat would jump to the middle of the first round. Is it time to embrace the tank? There are reasons why the Heat shouldn't. They owe the Oklahoma City Thunder a top 14 protected pick this year or an unprotected pick next year. While Miami would keep its pick by missing the playoffs this year, that would result in next year's pick being completely unprotected. It would also kick a top 14 protected pick owed to the Charlotte Hornets in 2027 to unprotected in 2028. That scenario opens the Heat up to risk of losing a top pick those summers. The indication is that the Heat would prefer to make the playoffs this season and keep the protections on those picks. Here's the thing, the Heat may not have to embrace it, per se, the way teams like the Jazz and Raptors have. The Jazz were recently fined for resting players, while the Raptors are routinely benching their starters in the fourth quarter of close games. Instead, the Heat have just been traditionally bad. Including Monday's loss, they have blown double-digit leads in 18 losses this season. That ties the Jazz for the most such collapses this season. "We have not come up with solutions and we've pretty much tried everything," Coach Erik Spoelstra said. "This has been one of the biggest challenges of a regular season that I've been a part of. Since January 1st, the Heat have dropped from 5th in the East to 10th. In that time, they ranked 26th in offensive rating, 15th in defensive rating and are being outscored by 4.9 points every 100 possessions, the 22nd worst mark in the league. The Heat, 29-39, are one of 4 teams within a game of each other in the standings, along with the Spurs, 28-39, Bulls, 29-39, and Trail Blazers, 30-39. Dropping lower than 8th, at this stage, seems improbable since the 7th worst Raptors are 5.5 losses behind of the Heat. The Suns, Mavericks and Kings are 2.5, 3.5 and 4.5 wins ahead of the Heat to round out the lottery. But the Heat could benefit from dropping one spot down, from number 9 in the lottery to number 8. If the Heat could crack the top 8 in lottery position, the odds of landing a top 4 pick would increase from 17.3% to 26.3%, while their slim odds of landing the number 1 overall pick would increase from 3.8% to 6%. The Heat's schedule does not let up anytime soon. They will return home to face the 6th-seed Detroit Pistons on Wednesday before games against the Houston Rockets, Charlotte Hornets, Golden State Warriors and Atlanta Hawks. All but one of those teams are ahead of Miami in the standings, and the Heat lost to the Hornets in a close game earlier this month. The Heat also face the Celtics, Grizzlies, and Bucks before the regular season is over in mid-April. Miami's April 9th game against the Bulls could be a tankathon showdown. Compared to the teams the Heat are competing with for lottery position, the Raptors have the league's easiest remaining strength of schedule, while the Spurs and Blazers have among the most difficult. Tanking is a forbidden word in Miami, but, for a franchise that hasn't had a top 10 pick in ages, this is a golden opportunity to inject some desperately needed talent. If the front office believes it can find a difference maker in the top 10 of this draft, it might consider manipulating the standings. Some fans will cling to the Heat's culture and refuse to accept tanking. But even the most optimistic Heat lifer has to see the writing on the wall. This isn't the same scrappy underdog team that clawed its way to the finals. The magic is gone. Sometimes you need to take a step back to take 2 steps forward. Heat notes: losing streak, Rozier, Anderson, draft pick. The Heat dropped their 8th consecutive game on Monday, losing by 21 points to the conference rival Knicks. It's the first time since Eric Spoelstra became the team's head coach in 2008 that Miami has lost that many games in a row, notes Chris Herring of ESPN. "We're all getting tested, including myself," Spoelstra said. "No one's absolved from this. I've not come up with enough answers for this team. I have to do a better job. Our group has to do a better job. We have to put our feet into the dirt and hold our ground at this point. You always have a choice. It doesn't mean you're going to win, necessarily. But, you at least have to make some strides." And you could see that in some of the losses over the last 3 weeks, where it felt like we were making strides. The last 2 games haven't felt like that. The Heat have been one of the NBA's most successful teams since Spoelstra's arrival, so their recent slide has the team in unfamiliar territory. According to Herring, Miami is 10 games below .500 for the first time since 2017 and has been held below 100 points for 3 consecutive games for the first time since 2018. "We're going through the dark days right now," forward Jamie Jaquez said on Monday. "As a team, right now we've got to come together and find a way to fight. It's something we've been talking about. We just need to find something to rally around." Ex-Mavericks player claims Heat's Jimmy Butler trade was worse than Luka Doncic debacle. The Miami Heat have seen their season fall off a cliff in the weeks since they traded Jimmy Butler to the Golden State Warriors. Miami currently sits 10 games under .500 after their most recent loss to the New York Knicks, and their schedule doesn't get any easier from here. Meanwhile, things have been going swimmingly for Butler in the Bay Area, as the Warriors are now 14-2 in games he plays in. Recently, former Dallas Mavericks player Theo Pinson took to the Baja podcast to relay a shocking take about the Butler trade and how it compares to the Mavericks' infamous Luka Doncic Lakers deal. "That is a worse trade than Dallas and the Lakers, by far. Jimmy Butler was Heat culture. Regardless of what the you thought he was doing off the court, that Motherf brought a toughness. He brought a mentality," said Pinson, per NBA Central on X, formerly Twitter. "He had leadership. Bro, I swear to God, it did not matter what seed the Miami Heat were, if they got in the playoffs, any team that played them didn't want to see him and had to buckle the up. It's unlikely that many people will agree with Pinson's take that the Heat's trade of Butler was worse than the Doncic debacle, which is already on the short list of worst moves in sports history. For starters, Butler had essentially forced his way out of Miami by sitting out games, which caused the Heat to have to act quickly and likely lowered their return value. Doncic, meanwhile, reportedly gave no indication that he wanted a trade out of Dallas. Still, it's quite difficult to watch the Heat struggle without Butler in the lineup. New acquisition Andrew Wiggins has had some moments in Miami but hasn't come close to replicating Butler's production so far, and also has recently missed time due to injury. In any case, Miami will look to end their brutal losing streak on Wednesday at home versus the Detroit Pistons. And you, fan? What do you think about Theo Pinson's situation? Write to us in the comments.